We realise for some of you this will be the first showcase you've attended, including some of the people we've spoken with who may well be watching this through live stream. As this is the third week of an 8-week process, we thought it's a good opportunity to share results with you and what we're doing. The format is Wendy will be covering the progress and experiences, and Joe and Lisa will be looking at insights the two different teams have gained. I'll do a brief brief bit about what we're going to be doing next, and then Tim will be managing questions and answers at the end. So with that,
great to see you all here. So we have been very busy over the past 2 weeks. We've been out there trying to speak to as many people as we can who use data in their roles. So it's about sort of rapid information gathering to make sure we've got our finger on the pulse. So as of today, I'll just make sure I've got the numbers right, we've spoken with 73 people, which we think is really awesome. So 39 of those have been Team Empire, who are looking at the really heavy users, and Team Odyssey have covered 34, and I've been speaking with everyone else. So we're really happy that we've been able to reach such a broad range of people. You know, we've spoken with people inside of stats and outside of stats. We've spoken with people in central government, but in all these other sectors as well, like NGOs, businesses, health, education. So really happy that we've got that broad spread. And also speaking to people throughout New Zealand as well. We've travelled up to Auckland and down to Christchurch and had some phone interviews as well. So reflections on the experience. So we've been really blown away by people's willingness to engage and the richness of the conversation. It's been great to sit down face to face with people and just listen. What are their experiences? What are their perspectives? And in turn, people have been really supportive of the process we're going through and that we're trying to work differently. So we're really enjoying it. It's been quite liberating being able to focus on one thing, you know, all trying to work toward the same thing and do it justice. Of course, that means stepping outside our comfort zones in a lot of ways, doing things we might not normally do, but the process also encourages us to, you know, have those confronting conversations to sort of say, hey, how can this work better for us? And I've been really enjoying the diversity within the team, that we've got people from outside the integrated data unit, different perspectives, we all have our different strengths and that we can complement each other. And that means we're feeling supported along the way and we're all on the same page. And I'll just wrap up by saying they're not so much challenges, but some of the interesting things we've been encountering with this agile way of working is that it's highly structured. It's fast-paced and you're doing things in a certain way, and we've been having to think about how we can take control of that and make the process work for us rather than feeling like the process is dictating how we work with one another. And also that it's a very flat hierarchy within our team. There's not one person making decisions or someone telling you what you need to do in a day. So that means there's a real onus on personal ownership of your tasks and day-to-day sort of accountability, which is a little bit different to the other ways we're used to working. So hopefully that gives you a bit of insight into what we've been up to and how we're finding it. I'll hand over to Joe and Lisa, who will talk a bit about the insights we've gathered so far.
Hello. So me and my team have been going out and talking to probably the types of people you expect us to go out and talk to. So current IDI users, data experts, that sort of thing. And because I'm a methods numbersy type person, I'm going to start by showing you a graph. So we asked lots of people about the challenges that they come across when they're using data in general and how the IDI fits into this. And I think the sort of important thing that we've sort of come from this is that for most people, it is the fact that they can't find information that they need, and actually a lot of the time that comes down to metadata, and not just the fact that there's not metadata, because there is, but it's the type of metadata that they want. So they don't want to just know that there is a data set with some variables called X, Y, Z. They want to know what those variables mean. When there's a date, what does that date refer to? Is happened, when something was recorded, that sort of thing. And that actually sort of, we expected technology to come out as sort of a big problem for a lot of people, and technology, whilst lots of people acknowledge lots of problems with technology, it's rarely in their top 3 and sort of not very often in their sort of top challenge. To talk about I'm going to show you some sort of quotes that we've got from some of the customers, because I think that's a sort of good way of explaining sort of what we've come to. With our group of users, we've come to sort of 2 different ways in which those people use the IDI. Either they use the IDI to work on longer term research problems, or to answer very quick questions. And so whilst these 2 groups use the IDI in pretty much the same way, they have different parts of that process that cause them problems. I think we're focusing a lot on problems and challenges, but I think it's really important to work out to remember that everyone we've spoken to caveats all of that with loving the IDI. And I think so the richness of data, the amount that they can get to, lots of people rely on the IDI for the work that they do. And this is sort of one of the quotes that sort of summarises that. I think in terms of the sort of importance of metadata, that's sort of one of the things that we really came out. And so I've got quite a lot of quotes about sort of finding information and how that relates, that sort of stacks up against sort of other people's problems. And so for both of those types of users, the sort of being able to find the right information, either to decide whether the data set's worth using, or to be confident in the quality of the results that you get after you've done it, is really important. And sort of this kind of came up, that sort of a lot of the time you can get to the answer that you want, sort of what is sort of around the data, but when it's complicated to find, you stop at some point. There's sort of only a limit to how much you're going to do. And I thought this kind of summed it up perfectly, in terms of sort of what people need, sort of want a good summary of what it does, maybe something about what it looks like. Probably what we sort of think of in terms of metadata as well. So then I think the sort of other big thing that came through is that people want things to be faster. Sometimes in terms of sharing, sometimes in application, sometimes in just actually getting in and using the data. I think for the people who've got a really quick turnaround, the reason they want things faster is often just because they want to be able to do it. They want to be able to share with people, and sort of this, I think, kind of sums that up. Like when people have problems with the data, want to be able to bring in experts, subject matter experts, talk about that problem, and when they're bound by security rules of having to get it checked and taken out, often they will find some other way to solve the problem, or they won't even bother. And this one really sort of spoke to me in terms of those sort of quick type of users. We've got a question from a minister, we've got a month to get an answer, we want to use the IDI, and analysts having to tell these people this, just don't even bother. There's no way we're going to get in, get access, and get data out in that time, let alone do any sensible analysis. So I think that's probably a good summary of sort of what we've been finding out. I think people want things faster, faster for those to be able to answer those sort of quick problems. But for the other people doing sort of slightly longer term research, I think what we're finding is that whilst having things faster, having more information would just allow them to be more confident that they were doing a better job, and potentially even do more and go into a bit more depth.
Because I'm not so sexy number and methodologist, I don't have any graphs. But I'll just be talking to you about sort of giving you a flavour of some of the things that we've learned in our team. So Team Odyssey have been speaking to a fairly wide range of customers that are really those that are infrequent users of data, or those that are just like potential customers that we sort of haven't really spoken to or tapped into. And so what I'll be talking about is just some of the things that have challenged our original assumptions or really surprised us. And so some of the emerging themes around that, we have one of our assumptions in our team is that we understand what our customers want to do with the data. And we've found that we actually don't really understand, don't have a good understanding and a thorough understanding of that. And so one example is that what has been coming up is that stats doesn't need to do it all. So I guess in the organisation is sort of because we're customer focused, we sort of have this urge to want to do everything for our customers. But in fact, our customers have actually been telling us that they don't want us to do it all for them, and they just want us to work with them and support them and make it easy for them to do it themselves. And so another insight from another interviewee was that that they work in a totally different world, and so that one of the key messages from a few interviewees is that they just want us to understand their world, and that they want stats to understand their customers more. One of the big insights, something I guess you're always sort of fairly familiar is, like Joe was saying, faster is always better, right? But the insight that we've got recently is that they've given us sort of being able to quantify that time, and so for customers, we're finding that for customers that their context of time is very different to ours, and so one sort of framed it that for financial markets 10 minutes is equivalent to Treasury's 1 hour, which is equivalent to stats is 1 week. So that sort of gives you a good understanding, quantifying the differences in time context. So a number of interviewers have spoken about how some information is better than having none, or having to make stuff up so often because they're not getting the data that they need in time from us, that they are just having to make stuff up. And so some have said those that have moved from the public sector to the private sector, that they can see why compromises in quality are made when timeliness just isn't there, and that they just really need to take an action or need to act. Another aspect that we've found is that the way stats presents data doesn't necessarily make the most sense for our customers. So some have recognised that we've started to get it. We've started to join up releases around subjects, for example, like the labour market releases. But we're finding that often people don't necessarily understand the data source or who's actually producing that stat. They sort of just want to be able to look for data under sort of themes and topics and subject areas. And so having information based around that would be really helpful. We're also finding that a lot of our customers are doing a lot of the cleaning of the data themselves, data manipulation of our data before they then use it. So they'd really like consistent data that's tidy, and that's really crucial for them in terms of time. But also, if they've asked that if things do change, that they get a really early heads up about it, because if they're having to adapt their own processes, that often getting information out with data is often too late. So we found that people really want timely local data that's relevant to them, and there are times that we don't need to produce perfection, and that we also need to trust our customers to know when perfection isn't needed. More specifically to the RDI, I'm sort of finding an emerging theme being sort of the distance between, there's quite a big difference between the people that are asking the questions and the people who are accessing or answering, accessing the data or answering the questions themselves. And so we've had a lot of feedback around the fact that the feedback loop between those two parties is quite slow, and so the process is a bit slow. For those who I guess these people have sort of spoken about the major constraint is time, but for those that where capability is a problem, which particularly in the sort of community level, that they've sort of seen that Stats' role is to educate data users, to provide people provide education around interpreting data, because that's sort of where they're lacking, and that often those that don't have a great capability, they often sort of co-partner or partner up with other organisations to sort of get around those barriers. And one thing that we've discovered as well, and I guess it's sort of busting the assumption that we sort of we know our customers, is that there are people that are part of our supply chain that we just weren't very aware of at all. So these are particularly what we call wayfinders. So these are people who are experts in the area who are helping others to use our data. So they might be experts in a particular area or across data sets, but they're really sort of supporting people with information, particularly smaller organisations like NGOs. They're sort of giving them information about what's available in terms of data across the government sector or private sector, and how to use it, and sort of connecting the dots and filling in the gaps for knowledge. So I guess there's something around also we found when interviewing people who aren't familiar with stats data, that there needs to be some sort of education around that, and particularly in the RDI space. Again, with the distance theme, there's also a sort of a gap between those who hold the knowledge and those who are using the data. And so some of the feedback we've got is that the bar for access is currently too high, and that even in the aggregated data space as well as the microdata, that it requires a lot of statistical maturity that often you won't find it in community organisations or NGOs. So lastly, just some of the refreshing learnings that we have had, and like Joe mentioned, there are a lot of people that I heart stats. So there are lots of people who really love stats and really love working with us and really value the relationship we have with them. And so a recurring theme is that there is just the value of the RDI, and that it's really a no-brainer. It should have more resources, and that there's so much untapped potential there, and so many avenues and questions to be asked that aren't being answered at the moment, which is really cool and encouraging for our work. And I guess sort of the number of interviews and the fact that we aren't able to get to everyone who has even just expressed interest in speaking to us is sort of testament to how valuable this resource as RDI is. And so people are really keen to get involved, but it's clear that there's been a lot of questions about sort of what next and the results, and so it's key for us to show action from this process. And so that's the insights from Team Odyssey. Next is John, who will wrap up about what's next.
Right, so as you've heard, we've certainly got a lot of material to work with, and the next phase is to the two teams combine and look at problems and issues that have been raised and what's common and what the priorities might be, and then we start looking about what might be a potential solution. Before even moving further, we're going to check with some of the people we've spoken with whether the solution we've got in mind will actually work for them. We've been very conscious not to be in a solutions thinking mode. It has to really be driven by customer perspective of what's going to provide the most benefit. Something that we might value higher may not be necessarily the customer's view. So that's the next phase.